Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Center Stage. I'm your host Rajiv, and today I'm very excited to have Cynthia Xu, who happens to be with a company called Tencent, and Cynthia is responsible for business development and investments. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. So Tencent, massive company out of China, over 40,000 employees, probably most known for WeChat. But the company's also into gaming and education and payments and music. Tell us a little bit about what the company does overall.
Yeah, so Tencent is actually one of China's largest internet companies. And like you said, most people know it for our WeChat business, which is our social network, social messaging. Some people have called it the super app. And so actually, I'm part of the games team, the interactive entertainment group at Tencent, and that's a large business for Tencent. We're kind of across basically all the touch points to customers that you can think of. So games for WeChat, we're also in the cloud business, QQ, messaging apps.
Right.
We've invested in a lot of e-commerce platforms as well and other businesses. So very, very, very broad.
So you're director of business development and investments, specifically in the interactive gaming division of the company. But tell us a little bit about your background. How did you land a role, working on investments and BD at Tencent?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career in investment banking, actually, and in Hong Kong. So I covered the China internet space. I worked with a lot of companies there, mostly helping them position their company for IPO, as that's kind of the market in Asia at the time. So very interested in China tech space, interested in helping companies grow. I came back to the U.S. to pursue my business school degree so that I could actually work within a tech company per se.
Where you went to Wharton.
I did.
And you went to Cal for undergrad.
I
Go
did.
Bears.
Go Bears. Go
Shout
Bears.
out to Cal.
Yes.
Okay, so you came back, you went to Wharton, you got your business degree, and you decided you wanted to stay here in the States.
Yes.
But you're from Texas, though.
Yeah, I grew up in Texas, but had always had a strong connection, which I'm ethnically Chinese, had a strong connection with China, spent my summers growing up in China, and really just saw how fast the country was growing and the opportunities there. And I think people there, the entrepreneurs there, are just so hungry to do something, and there's so much drive. And so I think what's interesting now is that there's a lot more innovation going on in a country versus maybe 10, 20 years ago.
Interesting.
So it's a very interesting space for me.
And why do you think that is? What's happened in the last decade or two where innovation and creativity is really at an all-time high?
Yeah, so I think access to the digital world, for sure, has given people, the population, general population, a glimpse of what can be. And I think just the global growth and how they've seen their lives improve with the technology that's available to them. So everyone wants to be a part of that and see what can I do to help improve other people's lives, but also our own lives, right? And especially since the Chinese economy was closed for so long. So once it was open, just a bunch of opportunity and investments and capital was available.
Got it.
And there's just much more room to grow as well.
So that's amazing. So a lot of innovation happening, a lot of inspiration. Now that there's been some changes in China, are there any places in China that sort of representative of Silicon Valley, where there's just so much innovation and a hotbed of startups?
Yeah, definitely. So Shenzhen, just across the border from Hong Kong, is definitely akin to sort of Silicon Valley here. And that's where Tencent's headquarters are located as well as a lot of other larger tech companies and a lot of burgeoning startups as well.
Got it.
Beijing is another hot spot. Lots of innovation and tech there, a lot of talent there. And so a lot of these cities also, the government had, Shenzhen specifically had designated as a special economic zone. And so there are a lot of economic incentives as well for entrepreneurs.
Got it. And so let's talk about your role. So you've been at Tencent for about 4 years now.
Yeah.
So what does your role look like as it relates to business development and investments, specifically around the interactive gaming division of Tencent?
Yeah, sure. So I'm part of the interactive entertainment group. Yeah. And so for business development here, I think it's quite fun. I've been lucky. It's an end-to-end business development from strategy to execution, looking at a lot of different things, identifying how we can grow our business globally in the West. And so this includes looking at investments, looking at commercial partnerships, looking at strategic partnerships.
Okay.
So really broad spectrum.
Okay, and so let's talk about your background and your experience in investments, investment banking, and and risk tolerance. Well, how do you sort of navigate risk tolerance and mitigate risk when you're thinking about investments?
Sure. So with investments comes risk. I mean, that's how
Obvious.
it is.
Yeah,
That's
right.
how it is.
Uh-huh.
And so when we think about it, we definitely take a portfolio approach. And generally, when you think about investments, you take a portfolio. I suggest to take a portfolio approach.
Right.
There'll be winners, and then there'll be those that may not perform as well. So every decision we make would be very thoughtful, and of course, we want to back those that we think will do well. But
Right. And how much analysis goes into this?
a lot of analysis,
A lot of due diligence, a lot of
a
analysis.
lot of due diligence analysis. We have whole teams behind everything we do.
Sure.
And I think it'd be surprising to know how much thought goes into everything we do. Yeah.
Yeah, and are there any sort of key indicators that you look for when you're sort of performing this analysis and going back to risk tolerance that helps you identify the opportunities that can mitigate risk, again, based on key indicators from the analysis that you're finding or key insights?
Yeah, sure. So I think for investing in early stage companies, right, when they don't have the financials or even the operating metrics data to kind of back it up, you look at a lot of things like what are the founders' histories? Have they done something similar? Do they work well together? What is their vision? And these are kind of broad things that I would say many VCs look at. But specifically, when there are metrics for gaming in particular, we look at retention. I think for this particular industry, understanding player retention, is this game good enough that players want to come back, keep coming back to play? That's very important.
Sure.
Yeah.
So speaking of gaming, I recently saw an episode on the Patriot Act with Hassan Minhaj where he covered gaming recently. And, it was fascinating insight to talk, he sort of talked about the intensity of being a game developer and sort of this time where it's called crunch, where you're really just grinding really hard to ship a game and meet the deadline. And once it's shipped, these game developers could be out of a job and they're very burnt out. And so really sort of unbalanced and kind of toxic environment that's happening in the gaming industry. How does Tencent approach the gaming part of their division in terms of the employees and how they get treated?
Yeah, so I can only speak to what I see. And here at Tencent, I think we treat employees well. Our studios in China, they actually have a policy in place on Wednesdays, for the studio, the developers. There's actually a requirement to kind of prevent this burnout that you're seeing sometimes across industry.
Right.
And so employees have to leave by 5 p.m.
Okay.
And we monitor it strictly. I've heard there's security guards that actually walk the floors to make sure everyone leaves.
Interesting.
I think Tencent culture, from my experience, has been really great, very cordial, and really cares about its employees. And in China, a lot of great benefits that would be akin to a large tech company here in Silicon Valley.
Interesting. So that's, I've never heard of that. So mandatory, you have to leave by 5 p.m. to ensure that the employees within gaming, is it all departments or just the gaming department?
I think it's just specific studios.
Specific studios,
Yeah.
So they don't burn out. They have to go home, sort of just check out and make sure that they come back refreshed. That's amazing. I've never heard of that before. So
yeah, and I've also seen the company offer on-site kind of wellness physician checkups too. So if you don't feel well during the day, there's someone you can go to and talk to.
Got it. And when you're looking at BD and investment opportunities for your role at Tencent, are you specifically looking at startups in the Chinese ecosystem, or are you looking at opportunities worldwide or the U.S.? How do you sort of filter that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm part of the U.S. BD team, so I sit here in Palo Alto.
Okay.
So our focus is mostly on the Americas.
Okay.
But we look for opportunities globally that can make sense for our business. And so if you look at Tencent's past investments, they've ranged quite a bit from early stage, even concept, pre-prototype kind of stage,
Okay.
to public companies.
Mature companies.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So
Interesting.
across the stage.
They run the gamut.
Yeah, historically,
Interesting.
yes.
Interesting. And I recently read an article that you were mentioning about gaming in the VR space. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for Tencent, I think we're always looking at the different emerging kind of areas within gaming, and VR was one that we closely monitor. So we have had a VR game launch on Oculus a couple years ago, kind of exploratory, and definitely a space we continue to look at.
And what's the name of the game?
That one in particular is called Shadow Tracker.
Shadow Tracker on Oculus. Check it out. So Cynthia, you mentioned that you're involved with the interactive entertainment side of the business. So what does that define? What interactive entertainment is for Tencent? What are you looking at?
So in terms of interactive entertainment at Tencent, the interactive part is really relating to games, and so we have a ton of PC games, mobile games out.
Okay.
Across entertainment, we have Tencent Pictures, Tencent Music, and we have also literature, comics. Yeah, so kind of across the whole entertainment spectrum.
Wow, sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your role. Like, what's your day-to-day look like as Director of Business Development and Investments at Tencent?
Sure. Every day is different, very exciting. We get to meet a lot of great companies in this space, and I think having that kind of wide view of what's, where the industry trends are, what people are doing, the movers and shakers of the industry, it's quite exciting.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, a lot of analysis work that goes into, well, where is Tencent position, and where should we be in this industry? So a lot of thought analysis.
So you must see a lot of different ideas, entrepreneurs, companies, and you mentioned trends. Are there any trends that you're seeing that you're really excited about?
Yeah. So in the gaming space, I think streaming is large. Streaming is very developed in my view, more developed in China, a lot of IRL and real life kind of streaming content. And so that could be interesting to watch, as well as I think everyone's been talking about sort of cloud gaming. And so I'm excited to see where that goes in the future as the technology matures.
Are you a gamer? Do you play Fortnite?
Fortnite is a big one. It's made by Epic. So I actually really enjoy casual games and puzzle games. So that's kind of my space that I like. Got
it. And you talked a little bit about the culture. Again, tell us a little bit about being, a female in a leadership role at a multi-billion-dollar company, again, with over 40,000 employees, having a seat at the table and being able to sort of navigate this BD and investment world. How has that been for you?
Yeah, so in my experience, actually, most of my career has been in male-dominated industries, first in investment banking and here in kind of in the gaming industry. I've been fortunate in the sense that I've never really thought of it that way. I think, as an individual, if I contribute, do good work, have thought leadership, I think that matters.
Absolutely.
And I do think empowering other women in the field and encouraging other women to not be afraid to take risks, to really go after what they want is extremely important.
So you talked a little bit about the culture at Tencent and these sort of mandatory days on Wednesday that employees leave at 5 p.m. Tell us a little bit more about the culture at Tencent. What is that like, working in Palo Alto and having headquarters in China, and you travel quite a bit, I think, to China. What's the culture like?
Yeah, so I think from kind of Western perspective or outsider's perspective, that's always kind of a mystery. What is it like working at a Chinese company? Right?
Definitely.
And so I think Tencent, I've been fortunate, it's very collaborative and kind of fun. And I think what excites me most and what I really enjoy there is that leadership really cares about what you want to do. So there's a lot of opportunities to move within the company and kind of pursue your dreams.
Career path,
career
professional
path.
development.
Yeah. And so I found, from my view, is that the company is very bottoms up. So a lot of self-driven initiatives. So if you find something interesting, go for it. And then there's a lot of activities as well to kind of build camaraderie upon all the employees there. So we have the Mid-Autumn Festival coming up soon in September. So
What's that?
So that's normally a time of gathering. You can think of it as a Thanksgiving sort of festival for China.
Okay.
And so usually you'll go home, you'll enjoy a nice meal, and also mooncakes, a special dessert for the holiday.
Okay.
And so Tencent actually gives you and your family a box of mooncakes for this holiday. So it's very nice. You can choose to bring it yourself, or you can just have the company directly mail it to your family.
Wow. And what's in a mooncake?
Mooncake, it's how do you describe it? It's a pastry, very sweet. There'll be maybe green bean paste or lotus paste, red bean paste in it. So kind of a nice thought for employees and their families.
And how often are you traveling back to headquarters?
I usually go back about once a quarter or on an as-needed basis for particular projects.
And I'm guessing that the Tencent headquarters is like a campus, sprawling campus, very large. Talked a little bit about what is headquarters like compared to your Palo Alto office, which is about 200 people here?
Yeah.
Versus, 40,000?
40,000 plus, yeah. So, for sure. Our campus in Shenzhen spans across several buildings, and we actually just had a new headquarters building built up. If you ever get the chance to visit Shenzhen, I definitely say go take a look. It's very interesting. It's kind of two buildings connected in the middle, and there's a swimming pool.
Oh, wow.
So very interesting.
So people can swim?
You could, but there's a gym facility in there as well, rock climbing wall, basketball court. Very fun.
Awesome.
We do work too, but very fun as well. Our Palo Alto office here is a lot smaller, but we do have our own building, lots of teams represented. When I joined 4 years ago, over 4 years ago, we were about 50 or so people, and now it's grown to about 200 or so people. So a lot of growth. Very interesting.
And where did you start in your career at Tencent? Were you always in the BD and investment section, or started there, stayed there?
Yes, I was always within BD and investments, but I've held sort of different roles. I started out doing more kind of strategy, market research, and then working on investments, post-deal support, supporting our portfolio of companies, and then running spectrum of commercial agreements, IP licensing, and now strategic partnerships and investments as it relates to strategic partnerships.
And how much crossover is there from what you do now to what you were doing in the investment banking world?
There's definitely some crossover. Definitely, I think a mind for data analysis, being analytical is always very important. Being able to interact with kind of high-level executives across different industries, and being able to understand new industries, new business models quickly is important. And then just identifying kind of growth areas or positioning highlights, areas where we can work together or there's opportunities, that's important.
And in terms of interacting with execs, like what is your experience there? How do you navigate that? What's worked for you?
Yeah, sure. So honestly, I think, for myself and my career growth, just be yourself, show respect, and kind of be open, have honest conversations, and that's worked. Yeah, and that's worked really well.
Got it. Awesome. Okay, let's switch gears.
Yeah.
I'll ask some fun questions, which I do with all the folks I interview. Okay, question number 1. Cynthia, what is your superpower?
My superpower is the ability to eat a lot of delicious food.
Okay. Like mooncakes.
A lot of, If you ask my colleagues, they will tell you I'm a real foodie.
So just a quick off tangent. On that note, you just reminded me of a great food film called Eat, Drink, Man, Woman.
Oh, I haven't watched that.
I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
Yeah, it's based upon about a famous chef in Taipei.
Oh.
Is that what it's called? Eat, Drink, Man, Woman. Oh my God, it's like fact check me. It's something like that.
Oh, yeah,
so wait, so your superpower is you like to eat delicious food, and how is that a superpower?
No, to be able to eat a lot.
Oh, sorry.
Of delicious
so your
food.
superpower is to be able to eat a lot of delicious food. Okay.
Yes.
And is there any delicious food in particular that you like more than others?
Yeah. So I love. Let me see. Oh gosh. What kind of food? I just love everything. Yeah, so I particularly love hot pot, and so I love. my colleagues will tell you this. Whenever I go back to Shenzhen, our headquarters, Shenzhen has this particular dish called coconut chicken.
Oh.
And so it's like a chicken and coconut hot pot dish. Every
Nice.
time I drag my colleagues to go with me. And they don't love it as much as me. So I've kind of had to rotate across our entire team. So everyone's gone with me at least once.
Got it.
And every time I've tried to pull it, every time we have someone new join,
That's your go-to dish.
let's go to get
Coconut chicken hot pot. Okay.
I'm not tricking them into anything yet, but I do have to bring in new people every time.
All the interviews I've done, I don't think anyone's ever told me that their superpower is the ability to eat a lot of delicious food. So that's the first. Okay, awesome. So, you're working at a company, you have an intense role. How do you achieve work-life balance, or do you think that's possible?
I do think you have to set aside time for what you think is important, whether that be work at the time or whether that be your personal life. I think in today's sort of world, and I have this conversation with friends a lot, it's very difficult to have a 9-to-5 job and be done with it and go home.
Sure.
We're always connected.
Always connected, yeah.
I work through WeChat, which is our Slack, at all hours of the day.
Right.
But you have to be, when you need to sleep, you need to sleep.
Sure.
I'm a big believer that you need to be well rested to do better. And if there are particular things, that your interests, I don't think that you should forego them.
Right. Right.
So I definitely think you need to find a balance, but maybe it's not a traditional, this is work and this is
You kind of
this
blur
is
the
my
lines a
personal
little bit.
life.
Make
Yes.
sure you get enough sleep.
Yeah.
Make sure you have time for the things that matter to you outside of work, because you're always connected and plugged in and
Yeah.
checking stuff. You mentioned something which I forgot to ask you, which was you said that WeChat is a super app.
There have been articles that
And so what makes it that?
there have been articles that had described it as such. So it's not my description.
Okay.
So it's very interesting, and I think not all of the functions are quite available to
Here.
U.S. users.
Sure.
But when you go into the app, right, there's the ability in China to pay your electric bills, to send money to friends, to purchase items online, to order takeout, to call a cab, ride-hailing
Right.
features. So those are all in partnerships with other providers, but it's a central place you can go to access all of these.
It's the one app to go to that does all this incredible functionality.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Got it. Do you have any daily habits or rituals that keeps you productive and sort of in the flow of your workday?
Yeah, so I like to kind of take breaks throughout the day, whether it be a minute or 2 minute, and take my eyes away from the screen or in between meetings, right? Just have some time to breathe. So recently I read this rule, it's 5-2-7. You breathe in for kind of 5 counts, you hold it for 2 counts, and then you breathe out for 7 counts.
That's really interesting, 5-2-7, because I read recently about a breathing technique called 4-7-8.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, where you breathe in for 4.
You have to hold your breath for a
7.
lot longer.
Yeah, you hold it for 7, and then you exhale for 8 seconds. So wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, it's actually can be quite transformative.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's, I think, regardless of what technique you use,
Right.
but just taking the time to do that and kind of
Right.
pull yourself out and constantly go, and kind of
Right.
having that refresher helps.
Got it. Awesome. Well, that's all the questions I have for you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we sign off?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching, everybody. Again, I'm your host, Rajiv. This has been another amazing episode of Center Stage. I want to thank Cynthia Xu from Tencent, Director of Business Development and Investments. Thanks again.
Thank you.
See you guys next time. Bye.